Most runners think that they can lace up their box fresh running shoes, put in some headphones, and hit the road to get faster at running. But what 95% of them don't realise is that the secret to becoming a faster runner is a maths equation. Putting in the right values will always give you the right answer. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. Yeah, there are some people that do it differently, like 5 minus 1 or 2 times 2, but they're the outlier. We now know that based on years of data and training techniques, what the easiest ways are to improve performance from beginner up to elite level that gives you the best bang for your buck. So if you're one of the 95% that want to know how to add 2 plus 2 together to make 4 and get better at your running, you're in the right place. So for those of you that are new here, I'm Russ, a 2:43 marathon runner, having run my first marathon last year, and I'm on a journey to go sub 2:40 next week at the Gold Coast Marathon. And these 3 workouts have formed the backbone of my training. If you start building your week around these specific workouts, even just one of them each week can totally transform your running. The first one is simple, the long run. And the definition of the long run shifts depending on the race that you're training for. But the general rule of thumb is that a long run is usually 20 to 40% of your weekly mileage. Here's what counts as a long run depending on what distance you're aiming for and what level runner you're currently at. Your long runs are mostly done in zone 2. Remember, that's easy conversational pace or jogging, because there's no substitute for running aerobically and no way to fake aerobic development. It's where all the good stuff happens, like better fat oxidation, increased mitochondrial density, and they're all crucial in allowing you to run for longer. Most people I speak to, though, they don't do enough zone 2 volume and they wonder why they're plateauing. And until I started my marathon career, I was literally the same. I'd run the same 5K loop every week as fast as I could. I'd completely obliterate myself and it would take me a week to recover from it before I'd do it all again, and I've wondered why I wasn't getting any quicker. But it's only since I started taking running seriously about 18 months ago and focusing on that zone 2 training that I started to see huge improvements. So if you're ever in doubt about what to do for your next workout, this one should be your default and fallback option. If all else fails, do this workout. Now, the next most important workout is a threshold workout. Now, thresholds, they train your body to sustain a faster pace. So just below your lactate threshold is where we want to be operating. And that's at the point where your body starts to struggle to clear lactate faster than it builds it up, which brings on fatigue. There's a couple of different ways to recognize your lactate threshold. You might remember 85 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. It sits around the top of zone 3 or kind of start of zone 4. You've also then got the talk test. That's where you can speak in short phrases and not full sentences. So it feels comfortably hard, but you're still in control. Or if you want to think about particular paces, it's probably between your 10K and half marathon pace, probably slightly more towards the half marathon pace. So having done a good 10-minute warm up, the classic textbook format that you want to build up to is to run 2 by 20 minutes at threshold pace with a 2-minute easy jog in between. Now, if you struggle with that, you can start with a 3 by 10-minute workout with 2-minute jog in between if you like. But remember that you need to keep your heart rate in that sweet spot. So if you're starting to creep very close to that threshold or bust through it, slow it down. But you want to keep it as near to that threshold as you can. Think of it as though you're a car. You want to be hitting top revs in 3rd gear, but not having to change into 4th. And that's where it allows you to be able to run faster for longer. And it's very much neglected by marathon and half marathon runners, I find. They get too caught up in zone 2 running, which means that they can run all day and all night, but not particularly fast. I actually sat down a few days ago with somebody off the back of their Ironman to talk through their target pace for an upcoming marathon. And we came to the conclusion that it was just too fast. Well, why and how did we come up with that? Well, we looked back at the data and they just hadn't done enough threshold work in their training. And look, while they could sustain 10, 11 hours of pretty good endurance during an Ironman, they just didn't have enough speed built in to allow them to change gear and kick on to run a faster marathon. So make sure you're getting in at least one of these sessions in your schedule a week. Before we jump into the last workout, please make sure you like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments about what sessions you find particularly useful and any variations of what we're going through here. These sessions should form the basics of your training, but variation is great, so I'd love to hear yours. Now let's talk about your top end speed and power, and that means VO2 max workouts. Some people may call it HIIT, high intensity training, but very simply, it's your body's ability to use oxygen during intense exercise. So the higher that it is, the more powerfully that you can run before fatigue starts to kick in. Now, typically, these workouts will be more suited to 5K, 10K distances, but they're still really beneficial for longer distances too, like the half marathon and marathon. And I encourage everybody that I speak to be able to do a combination of all three of these workouts. Now, this is where you train your body to push your ceiling, your running ceiling, meaning that you can run harder for longer before blowing up at the back end of a race typically. So it's very short bursts of very hard running, followed by a recovery jog. So a Norwegian researcher back in 2007, he pioneered what's now widely understood to be the best format for VO2 max training. And that is 4 by 4 minute intervals at 90 to 95% of your maximum heart rate. So zone 5 effort with a 3 minute recovery jog in between reps. The science backs it up that this format delivers the best bang for your buck when it comes to boosting your aerobic ceiling. So again, making sure you've had a decent warm up, you want to hit a hard and controlled pace, but you don't want to race each rep. It should feel uncomfortable, but that's the whole point. You're pushing your cardiovascular system to the limit. But if you find yourself falling apart mid-rep, you've definitely gone out too fast. So it's about consistency and not sprinting. Now, this will take it out of you and it will likely lead to fatigue in the couple of days after. So you want to be doing this type of workout only around once a week and not really much more because it also carries a pretty high risk of injury. So to recap, your easy long runs build your aerobic base, so the endurance engine that keeps you going strong and deep in a race. Your threshold runs, they raise your fatigue resistance, and that pushes that point where your legs start to burn and further away. And your VO2 max intervals, well, they're the final piece that sharpens that top end speed and teaches your body to go harder for longer. But if you're ever in doubt as to what workout to do, the fallback option is always a zone 2 easy run. That's pretty much always what is neglected the most, but it will mean that you're not putting too much stress on the body, that it can recover for some more intensive sessions later on in the week. Ta-ra!